Irish Fest, and I've got Watco, I've got um, BLO, and then tung oil. Anyway, two of these are not finished yet, but I'm going to try. Anyway, so I'm trying these different finishes. I'm going to buff them and then see which one I really like. This is interesting too. I had to make one salt shaker, so I made two. Anyway, hedge and spalted honey locust, BLO. This is Watco. So anyway, I'm going to wax it and then see what difference that makes. And so I'm just playing around with some different finishes on different woods to see what comes out. Also, Mr. Reynolds reminded me that Woodcraft is having their bag sale this weekend. Actually, is it Saturday? Saturday and Sunday, September 13th and 14th. 15% off. They give you a bag. You take that up there, fill it with whatever you want, and get 15% off. So if you're in the market for anything at Woodcraft, take advantage of it. Thanks, Jim. Okay. All right. And if you participate in the challenge, make sure you grab a ticket and keep half of it, throw the other half in the bowl for the drawing for the tool. So, other challenge participants.
I'll come back with it. So I did this for the Irish Festival. The inlay is actually an artist putty, and I had to put it in the oven to cure the putty for, I think it was 20 or 25 minutes. And it warped the wood, even though I thought it was really dry wood. So I didn't get it done in time for the Irish Festival. From a finished perspective, what I did, if you took a close look at this, I used acrylic paint. I painted the whole surface of this and then put it in the oven along with the putty already being on there. And then I sanded down to the wood. So this is oak. It's got a very open grain. So all the green acrylic paint stayed inside the open grain. So when I finished it off, I sanded it and then put the finish on top of it. And it's just a high-speed buffing finish. So it's shellac and oil and denatured alcohol. So I put that on top over all of this, several layers of that. But what I liked was just having the green in those pores of the wood, and it just worked out. And I wasn't going to go spend money on something I don't know if I would do a lot of. So I have the acrylic paints because I do that, and I like the way it came out. It gives it kind of a greenish tinge to it. So.
This was made for the Irish Fest and didn't sell, so you get to see it. I was out in Seattle in July, and my brother took me to the Woodcraft out there, which is about 3 times the size of ours. And I saw this stuff called unicorn spit, which comes in assorted colors, but I got the green for the Irish Fest. And it's a stain and glaze in one, and you apply it with a synthetic watercolor brush, maybe about 1 inch wide, and you just kind of paint it on until you get to the look you want, and then you let it dry. And that's it. It has sparkles built into it already. None of the Woodturners has asked about it, but one of the customers at the Irish Fest did. The stripes on this, it's ash wood, and that's just the way the stain went on. The glitter shows up better against the dark color than against the light.
tried last month's idea on how not to get blotchy. I was doing just some junk pine, and his idea worked, so it didn't. It looks kind of neat, like it's got a black grain to it, so it's kind of like an ebony. But that's what it looked like before. Yuck.
I went to the Ellie Alvacera demo, and he showed a technique using acrylic paints to give you a block. What did you call it?
Jerusalem stone is what he called
A Jerusalem stone appearance, using black paint as your base and then building up with 3 different metallic paints.
Gotcha.
So this one was done while I was in the class, and there was a reason why it was setting flat on the table over there, because it's, I don't know if you can see that, but it's very thin. I noticed that as I was carrying it out, and I go, oh, I knew I was close, but I didn't know I was that close. So I came back the next Saturday and tried my hand at just by memory going through it, and there's obvious differences, but I came pretty close and was really satisfied with the process and what I'd learned in the demo. So anyway, that was.
If you were here for the demo, Ellie made this bowl that he was demonstrating for, and he said, yeah, he didn't have time to finish this and everything. He said, maybe somebody here can finish it. I said, well, Chris can finish it. And so, yeah, I'm glad that he practiced now, so he can finish the one that Ellie did. So. Any other challenge participants? Oh, Charlie, yeah. This is interesting.
Really nice base there.
Yeah. I use tape for all kinds of things too.
This is kind of a first in a couple of things. First of all, I don't know what kind of wood I got here, and I've asked several people, but anyway, for some reason, you know, you never have a completed project without a design change. And so I wound up putting it in like that, and it came out like this where you could see the back of it, and I liked it. But I tried a different finish that I'd never done before, and I watched a video and used tung oil in the high gloss, and I also purchased the 3M buffing pads in the white and used those to scuff it up. And those things work the same as 4/0 steel wool. And so they worked real well, and I kept putting the coats of tung oil on. And then I had 3 coats on there, and then I changed and put a combination of denatured alcohol and boiled linseed oil and shellac. And I never mixed them up before, and I needed a bottle. Went up to the Dollar General, and I saw a small bottle of hot sauce, and I said, there you go. Took the hot sauce, dumped that in a jar, and cleaned that out, and took the label off, and put shine juice on it. And so I went to the shop, and I put on a coat, and it did okay, but you know, the tung oil actually did better. And so what I did, I buffed that up again and put on another coat of tung oil, and it seemed to make it more brilliant. I don't know what it was, but anyway, that was the first time I had done that, and it's time consuming, you know, letting it dry between the coats, and so anyhow, just want to share that.
How big was the tree?
I don't know where I got it. I got it when I first came here somehow, and I rough turned it, and it was clear in the back of, I got a concrete room under the porch, and I dry it out in there, and it was in the back. And I'm finally getting to second turning stuff, and this popped up, but everything else was marked this wasn't. So I don't know.
That's beautiful. Here's your ticket for the tool drawing. Now, okay, we need an impartial third party who can draw a winner for us for the tool. Linda, how about picking a winner there and reading the last three? Okay, let's see if that's the right one. 887, no. 883, who's got 883? Well, there you go, Sue. Congratulations. You have won yourself a custom-made Kevin Neely hollowing tool. Great. Okay, now we're moving on to the show and tell, and oh yes, tell us about that. How'd you get that basket, the walls, to be so?
I had to bring something for show and tell tonight because what I really wanted to do is invite all of you to the annual Trails West Barbershop Chorus, September 21st. There's two shows, 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock, and I put the brochure up there on the library. And there's also one up there at the front door. And last year, I think there were 5 turners that came. Kevin, you brought your wife, I think. I brought 5 people. You brought 5 people? Okay, good. Come again. It's better this year. Although this may be my last year, so this is really the one you want to come to. This is going to be a great... I mean, I'm a featured singer, so please come. But in any event, we have K-State also singing after intermission. They're a cappella premier group. So you'll really like it, and it's at the Bell Center again this year. So, but anyway, I brought this piece. Don and I were down at SWAT, and so this is one of the pieces that I brought down there for their instant gallery, and Don actually gave me this is a piece of white oak, and I love white oak. My goal on this piece was to hopefully make it more baskety. Typically, when I do this type of work, I use hard maple, which is a real light colored wood. I think the white oak brought out the more basket feel. Now this was turned green. I had no idea what was going to happen. The pith is in the center of the wood. Didn't really crack, and I think it just has to do with obviously the thin thickness, but also the grooves as you bead down through there. And turned out pretty cool. The only mistake it's not a mistake. When I wrapped the copper wire around the rim, I really liked it, and I tried to patina the wire. I thought I just would sand the wire, and it didn't. That didn't work. So you have to soak it in acetone, I think, to pull off the coating on motors that use copper wire. So once that is off of there, then it patinas really well. But anyway, it turned out pretty cool.
Great.
Well, I saw how everybody keeps on turning crotch woods, and this was my first try at doing it. The backside looks better. Then that was the second try. That even looked even better and got thinner. And this is the third one, and this was getting thinner and thinner. That's it.
This, I have 2 bandsaws, one great big Grizzly that's got a 5 horsepower motor on it, and an old Delta that I've had for 35 years. And on the old Delta, I don't know how many hundreds of blades I've replaced on it over the years. And so I got tired of doing that, and I got to the point where both bandsaws had dull blades. And I got on YouTube and started looking at ways that you could resharpen your bandsaw blades. There's several examples on there where you have to take the blade off and have to put it on a table big enough to make a jig in order to try to sharpen it. And I didn't really want to do that. I saw one that a guy had made something similar to this in order to sharpen the blade. And so I started playing around with it using a piece of PVC pipe as a pivot point. And because I didn't know if both bandsaws, if the angle of the raker teeth coming down would be the same on both of them. As it turns out that they are. So I don't have to, now that this is set, I don't have to change it or from one bandsaw to the other. But it's real simple. This is just a hanger bracket. I'll pull that hanger bracket off, and then the fence, this pushes up against the fence, and then you push it in towards your bandsaw blade, and all you're wanting to do is the raker tooth that's coming off the top is just barely touch the top edge of that raker tooth, get it centered, get the tooth centered on here so that your distance is right. And it's just a matter of taking a magic marker and marking on your bandsaw blade. And the blades I have there's 4 to 8 teeth per blade, so it's not like they're a 20-tooth blade. And so it's just a matter of pushing it up tight, with this thing running, and just hitting it, backing it off a little, pulling it down. And on my, I think the big bandsaw has 155 or 165 inch blade on it, and it took maybe 10 minutes, 8 or 10 minutes to sharpen it. And I did both of them and took a piece of hedge, and it just cut it like butter. So anyway, it's really nice to not have to take the blade off, number one, and then the expense of not having to put a new one on. So it was a real simple, easy design.
Are you going into business? I've got a whole bunch of dull bandsaw blades. Always something interesting, Don. Great.
I spent a couple hours on Sunday at the Irish Fest turning a box. This is Clara Walnut. And it was the first time that I had tried to do an agate insert in the top of it. Those came from the Gem and Mineral show last spring and had been sitting around waiting for me to try them.
Very nice. Jack?
Here, I've got
Oh.
a couple things. I'm so embarrassed. I had so much fun making those mice and pigs and porcupines. I decided I needed to make a cat and an elephant. So those were what I made this week.
This is a very simple box, and I had a bunch of heads around, and I used a opportunity to make a what I call a man box for my 17-year-old grandson, and he was all excited about that, and I said, well, I ought to have one. So just turned it and worked out very nicely, but it also gave me another idea. We're remodeling our bathroom. Make a long story short, we put a corner stool in, and that's 12 inches from each wall to get on diagonal. And the issue is, I just said it was 12 inch on a diagonal, and you can't do that. That isn't enough space. So then you have 2 big 4-inch holes in the subfloor, you think, no, this isn't good. Now I got to put a third one in because I moved it first, had to move it to get it right, And I said, surely you can use a lathe in this process. So I happened to have some 1 1/4, 3/4 inch of inch and a quarter plywood. And I thought if I turned the equivalent of my round box and then make it 5 inches and then turn 4 inches and cut down 3/4 inch, I can make a plug. And if you take good old wood glue, squirt it all around, you can put screws in from the bottom and it just goes up like it. And now then you can go in and drill out another hole to get it right. So by the end of it, I made 2 plugs, and that lathe just did a great job.
I've been getting back into the woolly mammoth ivory, and this is actually something that I started. This is a toothpick, and I started turned my first toothpicks maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I turn them like you get in Oriental stores. You know, not a point on each end, but a pretty on one end and a point on the other. And I thought it's interesting to have a toothpick. But I wanted to be able to carry it around with me, and so it took me a while. And eventually what I decided to do was to make a little box that it would fit in. And I made a friction fit box and made the toothpick so it would fit in. But then when I put it in my pocket, I guess the moisture from my leg or whatever caused the wood to swell, and the toothpick would always be loose in my pocket, and I didn't want that to happen. So what I finally decided to do was to cut a little thread on it so that it would stay in the box. And this is the finest thread I've cut, and I tapped this portion. Oh, okay. Yeah. I tapped the box portion and chased the thread on the other. And you have to be a little bit careful because it's fine work, but it's actually an easier thread to cut than a coarse thread. And so it's not real useful, but it's a good place to start if you wanted to practice. This was kind of fun. I was going to put a little J on the end of it so it's like it had a little handle. I figured this was an umbrella, an umbrella that's not been opened. And it was kind of fun. I made 3 or 4 of them. I think Effie and I made one out of boxwood. So, yeah. And so this is the other one. This is something that I actually turned this, and I think I blew up the bottom of the box. And so I made this as a little holder to as a jam chuck essentially, so I could turn the rest of it. And while I was there, and then it sat in my shop for 5 years, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with it? And so I went ahead and made this into the bottom of it. And I haven't made any for a while, but I used to make a lot of boxes for baby's first tooth. And there are a lot of people who like to keep that, and I just figured it was a good idea to make one out of a tooth if we were going to put teeth in it.
Cool.
This is a walnut bowl. The primary reason I brought it in because I started this on Saturday, and a lot of people in the shop have seen me turn bowls and then you never see the bowl because it's wet, so it's got to dry. It takes a long time for all that to happen. So I wanted to, this had been sitting in my garage probably for 3 years, and so it was pretty dry and interesting, different turning than a wet bowl. So I wanted it finished enough that I could bring it in and show people, yes, I do finish bowls. I don't just come in here with wet wood and then, take it away and you never see it again. So I can do that. So.
Okay, have we got any other show and tell participants? Anthony, explain your elephant trunk pipe. That's still trying to figure that out.
This is actually a pipe I made a while back. I didn't remember quite what the challenge was, and so I was at home trying to figure out what I was going to do about that. And I thought maybe it had something to do with staining or dyeing things. And so pipe's the only thing I ever stained or dyed, and so I brought one in case so that I could join in on the challenge. But it turns out it had to be something you'd never done before, and so I didn't. It's a tobacco pipe, and it's called an elephant foot. It's designed to show this grain. The stem is made out of lucite, and it has what's called a godet, which is this decorative part in the back, and it's made out of olive with a little layer of African blackwood. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did this shape originate? Is it just to show off that grain, or?
Yeah. There are hundreds of different styles, shapes of pipes that they have diagrams of them and pictures, and so there was a challenge of some sort, I think, to make no, I think I just did this one on my own. I don't know why I did this. Obviously I had this piece of well, you can't see it very well, can you? But a real pretty piece of burl. And I wanted to show it off as best I can. With a pipe, you end up cutting away a lot of it. And so I just decided, I went on the internet and started looking for pipes that had big fronts. And there are 3 or 4 of them, and this one is just called an elephant's foot. It's, yeah. So.
Huh. Interesting. Thank you. Okay. Have we got any other show and tell items? Chris made a L.A. Avicera top that is, and anyway, I just saw that was interesting too. So on the show and tell table. All right. Gosh, we're about 5 minutes late. Not too bad, all things considered. The challenge for next month is a game. Make a game out of it. Okay? And let's see. Any other announcements or anything? What have I forgotten? Okay, that's it. Thank you all for coming tonight. I hope that you were able to leave here with something that you learned tonight, something interesting, and got an idea on making new games. So, next meeting is October, what is it? I had it written down even. October 14th. Make a game. Thank you so much. I can help you.
And I started doing some piercing. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I made this one out of maple and walnut. Let's go ahead and get started. The wood shop is sponsored by these fine companies.